Hello, everyone. This is Noelle and Salome. We are doing our video on neglect. My role play will be involving an adult who is coming for therapy because she's feeling she doesn't know what she feels and she needs some help. And so I'm going to let her know that based off of her background and her history that she has been emotionally neglected by her parents in her childhood. And then Salome is going to do her role play involving a caregiver who has just received guardianship of their niece who was emotionally and physically neglected by her parents. So I'm going to start mine first. So Salome, last week when we did your background and your history, you reported that you've always felt like an emptiness. You felt like you're not really connected to your emotions. You can't identify them, and you have a hard time expressing them. Is that still accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay. So over the week, I just, again, went over your paperwork and thought about everything that you shared with me. And it seems as though you were emotionally neglected by your parents. Yes, and emotional neglect it's invisible. It doesn't have marks or leaves scars the same way that physical neglect or abuse or sexual neglect or abuse does. As you know, with physical abuse, you're going to have the marks on your body. You're going to be able to remember what that first time you were attacked or punched by your caregiver. Sexual abuse, you remember the first time you were molested or sexually assaulted or raped. But emotional, you don't know because, again, it's invisible and it's unmemorable. People from all walks of life can be a victim of emotional neglect. You can still come from a loving home, which you said you did. You came from a two-parent home. You didn't lack for anything materialistic. You had a home. You had everything you could ever ask or wish for. And that's how I even further felt that it was emotional neglect because you can't pinpoint anything. But based off of your report of how your parents were, they came from they both had high powered positions. So they weren't used to expressing their emotions. They couldn't, because it would make them look weak in the boardroom. But they weren't emotionally neglected by their parents, so they still could feel and identify their emotions. So you had self-reported that there were a couple of times when you were in your school year or school age at adolescence that you came home expressing an argument with a friend, your first heartbreak, and just you didn't agree with a grade from your teacher. And instead of your parents listening and letting you get those feelings out, they kind of showed you how to suppress them and suck it up. Don't let them see you sweat. You'll be okay. Does that sound accurate? Do you have any memories of those kind of conversations with your parents?
Absolutely. That is exactly the relationship that I had with my parents.
Okay. Yeah. So those experiences showed you how to suppress and not feel your emotions.
Wow.
And you expressed with me that you really feel empty a lot of times, that you feel flawed, and that you don't really have compassion for yourself, but you're able to show and give compassion for everyone but you. So it wasn't your parents failed to respond to your emotional needs. Like I said, they made sure that your other needs were met, as far as shelter and home and providing, but they didn't adhere or to what you needed emotionally. So even though you feel empty and feel flawed, you can recover from it. Like you don't have to live the rest of your adult life feeling right, not having any feelings. So what you can do is, start paying attention to your feelings or when you start feeling something, instead of pushing it down and kind of trying to push it out of your mind, over the course of this week, it would be good if you start jotting down when you get upset. When you become sad. And even if you can't name it as anger or sadness or depression or frustration or whatever it may be, still jot it down. And when you come back, we can talk about it and we can put a name to it.
Okay.
Because you're not used to feeling those emotions, you might feel it might be like an upset stomach. You got a bad headache after a confrontation, or you had no appetite because of a situation. So, jot down what you're feeling, how your body's reacting to it, and what happened, what caused it. What was the confrontation or the situation? How did you feel? And did you do anything after that confrontation or situation? And then, like I said, we can start putting a name to these feelings. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first because you're not used to feeling. So, but the goal is to feel and then to be able to manage, because once you kind of open up that top, the lid, we want you to still be able to then close it, because then you don't want to be uncontrollable with your emotions. You still want to be able to function. So you don't want to start crying and can't stop. You don't
Yes.
want to get sad and can't get out of bed. So then we'll work through all of that. We're going to identify them. We're going to name them. You know what it feels like. And then we'll work towards managing those emotions, because for going so many years without feeling and identifying and understanding, and to then open that up, it might be a bit much at times. So that's what we'll go through over the next couple of weeks. And now that we know what it is that we're dealing with. So how does that sound? Are you feeling anything now now that you know what it is?
It's overwhelming. It's a lot to process. I definitely want to sit with this, and I'm going to do it. You said, because I do trust your opinion, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to do the homework properly. So you want me to write down how I'm feeling and what brought it on?
Right.
Those are the two things.
Right.
Okay.
So if you had a conflict with a coworker, just a little bit about the conflict, and how did that make you feel? What do you think you felt? And even if, like I said, if it's you became nauseous, or you got a headache, or you started to sweat, because remember, you're learning emotions. So you're not necessarily going to be able to say, I was angry, I was frustrated, but your body is going to react, because it always reacts. Just you being able to become aware of it reacting and slow yourself down and feel whatever it is that's happening at that moment.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. So I can't wait to hear everything that you've gone through. So starting tomorrow, Thursday, and up until, I would say, like Wednesday afternoon, document as much as you can. You don't have to be very detailed, but document at least one or two occurrences a day, because I don't want it to be too much, and I don't want you to become consumed with all that documentation. So just one or two, and then we'll discuss it. And we're not necessarily going to discuss everything next week. Maybe you can pick the things that you feel affected you the most, and start with that, and then work our way through the list.
Okay. That sounds good.
Great. So I'll see you next Wednesday.
Okay. See you then.
All right.
Okay. Hi, Miss Henry.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Please come in, have a seat.
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. I'm Miss Singleton, and it is so nice to put a name with a face. Were you able to find our location fairly easily?
Yes. GPS got me here. I rely on it heavily nowadays.
Fantastic, as do I. Fantastic. So I know that you're pressed for time, so I'm going to do this a little differently than I normally would, so we could maximize on the time that we have and get you out the door, at the time you really needed to be leaving. But it was really important that we kind of connect today, and I'm so glad you made time in your schedule. Thank you.
Yes.
First, I just want to say you are absolutely wonderful to step in and become your niece's guardian. I also appreciate your openness and dedication to being as informed as possible about the situation and her needs. As far as today, my goal is to get you up to speed about your niece, her situation, share and teach you some techniques that should be helpful and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
And, if I do not have an answer for you, I will do everything that I can to get you an answer, which includes connecting you with resources or making a referral so that you can get answers and, potentially additional services.
Okay.
How does that sound so far?
That sounds good.
Okay, great. So with all that in mind, feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions about anything that I'm saying, because it can be a lot to process. And from what I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted the ugly truth and not the pretty lie about, what she's been dealing with.
Right. I feel like if I know what she's been dealing with, then I can better educate myself and understand it more versus being told like it put in a nice little package with a bow, because that's not what life is. So, and if it was, I would need to step in and be her guardian if she hadn't experienced things. So,
okay. Okay, fantastic. That's wonderful, because that's actually my personality is definitely aligned with the ugly truth.
okay.
So I'm just going to cut straight through the chase. Your niece Claire, I'll say that she's a victim of neglect, and just in the general sense of the word, meaning the physical and emotional neglect. Are you familiar with the term at all, or
I am, but neglect, you don't hear it often. I'm more knowledgeable with physical and sexual abuse and even maltreatment, but neglect, I'm limited on that subject.
Okay. Well, like I said, please feel free to stop me and I'll be happy to explain anything in more detail if you need me to. So long story short, her Claire's brain is underdeveloped, and this is due to the neglect. But you'll be able to help her by providing her that physical and emotional contact. And a lot of people aren't aware that the lack of physical and emotional contact can result in neglect. So, for example, Claire has been left alone, left unattended for hours at a time. When she cried, no one soothed her. She wasn't held very often, spoken to, fed, or given proper diapering. And then, babies cry, you're basically in distress. And so the brain has how it responds to distress. It really wants at that age to be soothed. And that's at any age. Honestly, when you're feeling stressed, you want to be soothed. And so you want that stress response to be reduced. And unfortunately, what happens when that happens over and over again, a child can have challenges responding to social cues and forming healthy attachments through that particular kind of healthy contact. Otherwise, without that healthy contact, she will continue to struggle with soft skills. Now, she's only 13 months right now. So you're stepping in at a really great time to provide her that support. So I don't want you to feel any anxiety about it, but it will definitely take you to be very intentional about, your contact with her. So when neglect occurs between birth and kindergarten, just so that you can kind of see the long view of what it is that we're trying to avoid down the road, typically adolescents, teenagers, and adults can be aggressive, demanding. They can have a flat affect where their facial responses, there isn't really a lot of facial responses. If you've heard of what people will call resting bitch face, just not a lot of their facial expression isn't very animated. It's just flat. She could potentially have weight and other health problems, just to name a few. And more extreme cases, people can become confrontational, violent, bullies, abusive, and manipulative. I
So
know that. I'm sorry.
based off of what she's experienced so far, would she be considered to be one of those more extreme cases of children? Or is it too early to determine?
It's absolutely too early to determine. From my observations of her, she isn't. I'm concerned about how she's just kind of engaging in the environment. It seems like, she's been left alone a lot, and so she's learned to self-soothe. And she, at this age, it really is very important to have that support from an adult to soothe and respond to her needs when she's crying, or just needs to have that contact and that interaction with another person. Do you have any other questions?
Well, I'm just wondering, is there anything in particular that I need to do now just to show her that she's loved? Like, if I try to now soothe her when she cried, will she pull away from me? Will she not be receptive to it?
Well, we're going to basically, my next step is to have you and she come together. Okay. So that I can see the interaction and then also talk with you about how things have been going. And I'm going to make myself accessible to you by phone. You can page me at any time if things get very extreme. I don't want to tell you how to respond to her right now, because we really want to see how she engages with you. And then we can kind of tailor something for her. But in general, she really just needs that nurturing. She really just needs that nurturing, that physical contact. She needs to be close to you. If it makes her stressed out, then definitely give her space, because, we can work on a plan to get you closer together. But if it's too much too fast, that will make things worse. So how does that sound? Is that something you're comfortable with?
I mean, it makes sense, because I'd have to say that there are a couple of times when I am trying to hold her and calm her that she'd rather be anywhere but in my arms. And I will continue to try to nurture her, to try to get her to calm down, thinking to not let her go, to not put her down, to let her see that I'm not going to go anywhere, because I feel like she was trained to think that. And it's, so I don't know if I'm making it worse. I don't know. So I mean, I'm glad that you just said that she might not be comfortable with it right now, and to not push it, because I have to be honest, I was, because I didn't know what else to do. I mean, she's a baby, she's crying, that's what you're supposed to do, but she's not used to that. She doesn't know that yet.
Right. And she'll have to, the same way she learned that is the way she'll have to unlearn it. And your consistency and your commitment to her will definitely be just fuel to help her make that adjustment. And then we can fine tune some things, and I can see you guys together, and we can talk about a little bit more about some of the things that she likes and things that she's attracted to and things that she wants to do. Just, that would also be helpful, so that we can figure out and just kind of tailor something for you and she specifically. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I want to stop now, because I know that you have to get ready to go, but I want to make an appointment and give you my contact information to reach out with me at any time. And if you don't have any more questions, we can just wrap it up here, and then I'll see you early next week.
Yes, sounds good. I thank you for being considerate of my time constraints today. I do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming in, Miss Henry.
Thank you.
All right.